Hey guys, for my next top 10 list, I wanted to take a look at some of the best dungeon mods currently available in Minecraft to users on Forge and Fabric. There's a decent list here, and maybe I'll do a part 2 of this one day. I chose these mods in particular due to their popularity, and because they're all available on some of Minecraft's latest versions. You can download any of these mods from the description below. First up is Dungeon Crawl, which is a successor to roguelike dungeons. With it installed, you'll find lots of structures spawning on the surface of your world, which might look like different houses and towers. But as you head inside, you'll find a sprawling complex of corridors and rooms, most of which contain hostile mobs like zombies and skeletons, who are often wearing armor and weapons. Each level contains a staircase, which you can use to slowly work your way down the multiple levels. Every floor is a bit different to the previous, with there usually being some different themes, and the bottom floor will be the hardest to clear. The mod doesn't include any custom items, and most of the stuff you pick up might be junk, but because of the amount of mobs you'll kill and chests you'll search, it's a good idea to use a backpack mod to carry everything. The Conjurer only adds a single structure, but I'd say it still classes as a dungeon. Inside of one of the forest biomes, you might find the theater, a large structure which hides under the tree line. Head inside and you'll be in the lobby, which might have some illagers you'll need to kill. Check the armor stand in this room too, as there is a totem of undying which you might need. If you move into the main room, which is the theater, you'll find a few more hostile mobs as well as the Conjurer on the stage. It will feel like a mini boss fight. The Conjurer will be able to teleport themselves, go invisible, throw cards at you, and even summon hostile rabbits. If you kill the Conjurer, you'll get the What a Performance advancement, as well as the Conjurer's hat, which you can dye and wear to prevent yourself from receiving the bad omen effect. Stalwart Dungeons introduces 3 new dungeons, which can be found in the Nether and End Dimensions. The first is the Keeping Castle, which spawns in Nether Waste biomes. It consists of some large towers and has some interesting mechanics too. I like the Giddy Blaze mobs you'll find here, which come to life when you get close. If you use another star on the Nether Keeper altar, then you can summon the Nether Keeper boss. You can find the Awful Dungeon in the Soul Sand Valley biome, and it's made up from some new blocks with some being animated, which looks cool. Here you'll find mobs like the Reinforced Blaze, who has shields, and the Incomplete Wither Skeleton. The boss that you can summon here is the Awful Ghast. In the end, you can find the End Dungeon, which contains the Shelterer and the Propulk mobs. There's more to this mod, like new sets of armor, weapons, and hammers. When Dungeons Arise is one of the most impressive dungeon mods available, and lucky it's available for both mod loaders. It adds structures like fortresses, palaces, ships, temples, airships, houses, and more. Compared to the structures you'll find in the vanilla game, or even most other dungeon mods, you'll find that they're much larger, sometimes reaching the world's height almost, and the builds themselves look very professional. They're not just above the surface either, and there's large locations like the mines too, which you can find underground and easily get lost in. My favorite location is the Bandit Towers, which reminds me of something from a post-apocalyptic movie. And as you can expect, you're going to find tons of hostile creatures and mobs in these locations. A mod that improves on Minecraft's vanilla dungeons is Young's Better Dungeons. The first change you'll notice is that the default dungeon has been improved, keeping its original style, but with some much-needed improvements that really modernize it. The first new style of dungeon is the Spider Caves, which are obviously infested with spiders, and feature some nests and eggs. The second dungeon added is the Fortress of the Undead, which is of a more classical style, and features some open areas where you can find lots of skeletons. And finally, there's the Catacombs, which is the largest of them all, and is of a maze-like design, which you're probably going to get lost in. This dungeon is infested with zombies, and at all these new locations, you can find chests containing loot. I'd recommend this mod for a more vanilla plus style pack. Dungeons mod is more updated for Forge, with it featuring more mobs and also being on the latest version, whereas Fabric is currently sitting on 1.16.5. It adds quite a few new locations like the lab, house, camp, castle, mines, and more. Unlike some other mods mentioned in this list, Dungeons mod features some custom enemies which suit these locations. Like at the castle, you'll find a king surrounded by guards. At the lab, you'll find some scientists with their slime wolf experiments, and at the center of the lab is the Crawler, a large worm-like boss. But there's lots of other mobs too, with more being added in recent updates, as the Halloween update saw the introduction of Notehead, Crows, and Lord Skeleton. Item-wise, there's the Crawler armor, King's Crown, ore detectors, cooked Kraken, and more. Awesome Dungeon is also available for both loaders and brings 7 new locations to Minecraft. These are the Giant Jungle Tree, Abandoned Oak Palace, Better Jungle Temple, Swamp Temple, Desert Temple Husk, Z-Tower, and the Abandoned Mushroom. They range in size quite a lot, but fit into the surroundings nicely. At each location, you'll find between 3 and 5 chests of loot, as well as a few mob spawners, which will summon some of Minecraft's vanilla creatures, many of which will be wearing armor. I would say the largest of them is the Swamp Temple, which feels a bit like a maze once you go inside, but the Oak Palace is pretty big too, with a large interior. Castle dungeons will add large, procedurally generated castles into your world. They're really big, so should be quite easy to spot as chunks load in, and there are some designs that allow them to blend into deserts too. A single castle might have dozens of spawners, which spawn mobs like zombies and skeletons, often wearing armor. But you'll also find lots of chests which contain common loot. The castles are typically made up of lots of corridors, with smaller rooms like libraries, storage, and bedrooms. A great option for fabric users is Draylar's Battle Towers. It adds large towers which are made up of different blocks, so they blend in with your biomes nicely. Typically they have between 10 and 13 floors, which you'll need to work your way through in order to reach the top, where you can start a boss fight. You can't just build a pillar up to the top either, as you'll need 10 boss keys to start the fight, which can only be obtained by breaking the spawners on each floor. You might find it difficult working your way up the tower, as there's usually multiple spawners on each floor, summoning mobs like zombies, spiders, witches, and even guardians. Once you reach the top floor, you can interact with the box to summon the Tower Guardian, a boss who has a lot of health and does some special attack moves. If you kill it, you can receive good items like minerals and enchantments, or items from the new key set. Finally, we have Stonevault's Dungeons and Towers. It's for fabric only, but the developer is possibly working on a forged version from what they stated in the mob description. It will bring in 4 new dungeons, which all spawn in the overworld. All of the dungeons apart from the Mage Tower look small on the surface, but that's because they stretch deep underground, where you'll find all the enemies and loot. Some dungeons have puzzles too, which you'll need to work through. Hopefully you like some of these mods and are considering adding them to your mod packs. I've covered hundreds of mods on the channel, and I'm working on more top 10 lists like this, as well as resource pack and data pack videos, so stick around for those.